Testing, testing. Hello. Hello, and welcome to episode 215 of Keeping It Real. I'm your host, jackkadis. This episode is brought to you by me. We have yet to receive our first sponsor. If you're interested in sponsoring the first ever episode to be sponsored of Keeping It Real, let me know. Drop a comment, message me, however, through anything, anyway. I'd be happy to work something out with you. We break this show down into 3 segments. The first segment, we talk about me. I try my best to keep it real, as the title of the show suggests. And that can go a wide variety of different ways. Then we move into our second segment, which today will be all about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is what we're talking about today. The second segment is reserved for real-world events, and today we're talking about the Trump presidency, Donald Trump, and what he means for our country and how I perceive him as me. Moving into our final segment, I'm going to try and leave you off on a high note, give you some sort of advice, lay down the law in a philosophical sense. So let's get right into it. Today it is night, actually, and I don't know. For whatever reason, my camera's facing the wrong way. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm feeling guilty, because like I started off last episode, and maybe even the episode before, there's been a big lack of effort. I pulled back on what I release each day. It's changed. Now I no longer put out 24 shorts, and my 10-minute videos have not been in the format of the Jack Kadis show. They're back to just regular old vlogs. And I feel like it's such a slippery slope to let go of something like that, because doing it every day and continuing to push through it every day is so important to me that when I let go of it, here I am again. I'm not going to do that again today because it's so late at night and I just don't want to. I'm not going to. And it's like, it's just scary, right? Because it opens the door to like maybe one night, after a long week of just, each day I do a little bit less work. Then one night I just, maybe I don't make any videos at all. And then the next day I don't make any videos at all. And then all of a sudden 5 years pass and I look back like, what if I just continued making videos? Then maybe it could have worked. Oh well. Maybe that sounds stupid to say, but it's the way that I think about these things. And I know that makes me sound like I think like psychotically. Like why are you thinking like that? Like it's irrational, it's manic even, and it's like it doesn't how does that thought process like serve you? And I don't know, I think I have all these, like, I feel like I feel like I'm just like an animal living in like such a civilized world. So I'm trying my best to channel certain emotions and urges and instincts into things that I feel are accepted and okay. So like it doesn't make sense to be obsessed over something. I found time and time again in my life that obsession is just like not accepted. I feel like from what I've experienced around me, time and time again, you want to be leveled out in every aspect. You want to be well balanced in every genre, and you just want to be this perfectly neutral human being. And I've always found myself, I was gonna say wrestling with, but the truth is, I've always found myself to be infected with this obsession that, it comes out and shows itself with the most random things. I can think back to when I was very, very little and go all the way up to where I am now and just list a couple things. I mean, when I was very young, I actually remember being obsessed for a brief time with making videos. I had a YouTube channel. It's called Cookie Productions. I was imitating SNL and the jokes, and I was so totally and completely obsessed with the entire process of putting myself on the internet in a way that would make others laugh or want to watch or pay attention. I remember a deep, deep, deep obsession with my physical fitness and my placement and value on my high school varsity soccer team. Everything I ate, every step I took, it was all only for the purpose of being a cog in the machine that would win our team a state championship. I remember being deeply, deeply, deeply obsessed with running a Discord server. When I was 13 or 14, I had built a computer and I made a lot of friends online, and I created and operated a community which had guidelines, rules, channels, pockets, friendships, just people. And this was very, very important to me. I was completely obsessed, and each and every one of these things has died. I no longer am affiliated with Cookie Productions. I no longer am on my high school varsity soccer team. I no longer have this Discord or am in touch with any of these people. I remember being deeply, deeply obsessed with making money, and I no longer make money. And I'm trying to put all these pieces together and make it make sense, and I landed on believing that I had to choose something to let my obsession ravage, and I had to maintain a relationship with it through and through, regardless of obsession. It didn't matter if the obsession faded or, the only thing that mattered was that I pushed through to some other side where I could look back and evaluate, because that's the one thing that I haven't been able to do. That's the one thing that all these experiences with obsession, they come together, and the one thing they all have in common is I gave up on them, or I quit on them. I turned my back. I decided that I just didn't care. And I think that's what I feel is looked down upon the most by not just me, but everyone. I feel like that's that temporary obsession is what's really shaking a finger at. It's like a waste of resources, a waste of time, a waste of but this isn't really on topic, because what I was saying in the beginning was that I felt like an animal, and that I felt like I had all these urges and instincts and things that I just had to let out of me. And I know that I can't hold in me, because if I hold them inside me, they burst out in even worse ways than if I let them trickle out naturally. So I've always felt like I've had to like find ways to make myself pass the screen test. That is, like, I guess, of my own design, really. It's like through all my observation and time spent in this world, there's like this test almost that I present to my own self every single day, and I have to pass it, because if I fail the test, then I'm like a test failure. I don't know how else to explain this. And I feel like part of what I've believed is important is that I not suppress but point certain animalistic things. Like, I'm talking about obsession. Like, I felt like, and right up before this video thing really started taking off how it did, I was so super obsessed with a girlfriend that I had. I was giving it everything. I went into the relationship doing my best not to expect anything, but I was so determined to give a girl a shot, if that makes sense. How does that make me sound? I honestly don't care how it makes me sound, because that's the truth. I was like, I'm going to put all the things I think I know into practice, and I'm going to do all the things I think. You always shake the finger at people that are in relationships when you're single, and it's like, oh, that's unhealthy, or like, oh, I bet they're not doing this and they should be, or I think these two are going to break up, and it's weird that she posted him like this, or I saw them out here doing this. And here I was, I guess I kind of felt like the last time I had a girlfriend, I don't really even know. I look back, like, if someone were to ask me, when did you, what's your dating experience? I don't know. I think, like, well, I had a girlfriend in middle school, and then I never know if I can call any of the girls in between a girlfriend. Like, I don't, I had friends that were girls, and I was just like, I don't, but I was totally obsessed. I let obsession completely drive me. And I even still today go back and forth on, how that choice, how do I think about that choice? Like, would I do that again? And I don't know. Because a lot of it was intentionally synthetic, because I believe in sort of, I believe in like the power of the mind, and I believe in like, I believe in like taking action and driving your own ship as much as you possibly can. Of course, people say, just be yourself, and these things happen when you least expect it. But I don't know. I was so totally obsessed, and it's like the obsession wasn't enough, or it wore off, or I don't know. It's hard to I can't really just give this a storyline. I've tried over and over again, and I've never been satisfied with this storyline. Like, yeah, with 4.5 minutes left in the segment, I feel like I should say that I just at like a base level, if I'm trying to boil this down, like get somewhere, land on some sort of like word combo that's like wraps the segment up, and it's like, all right, that's the segment. He said this, and it landed to this. I really struggled to figure out what. I think I really still have no idea who I am. Someone turned to me the other day, I think it was my mom, and I was like, am I an adult? Because I just today's my birthday. I turned 22 today. And she said no. She was very quick to shake her head and say no. And I felt a lot of comfort in that. Because I don't feel like I feel like I'm like growing into somebody, and when I hang out with my younger brother and his friends, I feel a very big sense of like, I don't know, security. Like I feel like I've come a long way, and I'm very honestly grateful in a sense that I made it past being that age. Because being that age, it's like all these things that I'm sort of trying to confess to feeling, I felt like I felt to a magnitude of 100. It's like I'm sitting here now as a 22-year-old, kind of opening up about how I'm not sure that I really, know my purpose or can say what I believe in fully. But I can also say when I was 16, that was, I lost a lot more sleep over that. I think it's because back then it was so evident that it was like, well, if you could just choose something, if you could just figure it out, then like, well, you're so young, like figure it out. It's like, it's time and advantage and head starts, and it's all like this big race. But then as I'm getting older, I continue to confess to not knowing, but I don't know. I'm about to talk about Donald Trump. I feel something about being home makes me feel gross. I like fall into these old schedules where I like eat 2 really big meals a day instead of 3 medium-sized meals a day, and it's like I chug and I lay around and I just feel gross. I brain rot and feel disgusting. I can't wait to get back to Raleigh. I won't put the pressure on myself to like get back into the full gear grinding that is all the media that I was uploading, but I wouldn't be surprised if it just happened, because I feel that my thoughts, I won't say clearer, but they're different in a more developed, I don't know how to describe how they're different, but my thoughts when I'm in Raleigh and I'm not, my thoughts here versus when I'm in Raleigh, and like my state of being is just different. I feel that I'm much more I feel like being here back home, there's a lot of things going on. For one, this neighborhood is more crowded. Things are more packed together, and there's more people walking around. And I feel like I'm in a bigger city because I am. And it's like kind of eye-opening to how big of a shock New York City is going to be. And that's the whole point. I've had the shock before, many times before. New York City is one of the biggest knockouts that I've ever encountered. Like, I always see myself as someone that can handle anything, but I go to New York City and I just get punched in the face, and that's why I think it's so important for me to go. Okay, this is what could be your second ad read of the episode. If you'd like to sponsor an episode of Keeping It Real, matter of fact, if you'd like to be the first ever Keeping It Real sponsor ever, get in contact with me. I'd love to work with you. Moving forward, we're going to talk about, for the next 20 minutes, Donald Trump. Now, what I know about Trump is he was born into extreme wealth. And I don't know the year, I think it was 1940-something, but he shares a birth year with 3, I think, other U.S. presidents. And he was a very popular guy before he was president. Throughout the decades, he would appear in places like Oprah. It was a name that people knew. People knew Donald Trump. And I think in New York City and Manhattan, there's just a bigger potential to benefit from being known because there's more people to know you. I think of Donald Trump, and it depends on the day and the moment, but I wonder what it would be like to be him. He is one of the most hated men and one of the most loved men of all time, and he shares both those titles simultaneously. Now, I'd imagine he is surrounded more often by those that love him, and I think with the circumstances and the state of everything, the year that we're in, and all that it is, when it comes to the presidency, I think he's done a fantastic job. There is always, when it comes to comparison, I refuse to compare because times are different, people are different, and it's all different. But I do want to mention that there's a very soft spot in my heart for Obama. And when asked why, I can't grasp at anything. I mean, I can kind of try and inflate what I see as sort of superficial reasons, like, and it's funny how you really can manufacture your own beliefs over time, and it's like, just because I come up with these things doesn't mean I don't believe them just as much as the core reason that I believe that I support him, which is I grew up hearing from family and all those around me that he was just a great president. And they all voted for him and he got elected, and that's all they ever could have wanted, and everything was all peachy and merry because Obama was awesome. And I'm not sure why I'm hesitant to give that answer as the first answer. Does that answer, for some reason, make less... Is that answer less impactful? Like, if you hear someone give that answer, do you think... Are you not... do they sound less intelligent? I mean, what is intelligence? And why am I so, why do I want to hide the fact that I support someone just because I was raised to support them? Because I was going to launch into, rattle off 3 things. Like, he was very well spoken. He handled the role of the first African American president with grace. And he did a lot for healthcare, and he worked on issues that I believed in, and I think he believed in. All presidents have done this. I look back on all of our presidents, and I don't, there's not a single president that I would say, anyone would have been better than him. Like they all, they were all fantastic men. And currently, Donald Trump in office, I think, has done just a great job representing the position and holding up to the pressure. Now, I think there's something to be said about old men and pressure. Because, and I think of like LeBron James, right? And old veteran basketball players. I think of Messi winning what I believe was his final ever. I don't think he's going to play again for Argentina World Cup. It's just a state of being combined with a specialized experience, a specialized amount, a specialized kind of experience that combines to create a kind of person that is almost like a magician. It's because we create like these storylines, and we like have these biases and how we want things to go and what we believe in. And I mean, you have to look at this last World Cup with Argentina winning the way they did, and you have to truly look at, understand, and acknowledge the way the ball moves around Lionel Messi. Soccer and basketball alike are beautiful, beautiful games, and I have immense respect for both. I think they capture a lot of what it means to be human, and we speak as humans in languages. We have English, we have JavaScript and C++, we have chess, we have basketball and soccer. I mean, these are all languages alike. And there are these weird exceptions, as always, to all languages. And there are certain combinations in certain ways with certain accents in certain languages that are just undeniably beautiful and send pure goosebumps and shivers down your spine. I mean, you can think of it all kinds of ways. You can think of it as like, with only language alone, you could walk up into a driveway and convince someone to hand you the keys to their car as long as you find the right combination of words. And when you get Messi winning the World Cup, I remember watching it, and I remember the way that it wasn't about the way that he moved with the ball, because he's getting up there in age, and nobody can skirt or avoid aging. It is the one slow tick. It's going to kill, nobody escapes the grip of age. And what you have is a man that is he's just simply not as quick, not as fast, not as sharp, not as smart as any of the men out there. I would argue that I think he was the oldest on the field, and I don't think that he holds a candle athletically to anyone on the opposing or even his own team. And what's crazy is that you would think from a logical standpoint that that's all that matters. It is just how athletic are you? You gather a team of the most athletic human beings, like the ones with the most raw power output, muscle control, and, focus. And all of a sudden, you have a winning team by whatever margin they are more fit. But it is the game goes so beyond that, because it is a language. Two teams trying to score more goals than one another. It is a language in so many ways. It is two teams speaking to one another through the game. It is a player, an audience member speaking with the two teams back and forth. It is this weird assimilation of language. And what I saw was a storyline and a demonstration of language that I felt like it's like I see it coming on. Like, there was a branch that I wanted to go down just a second ago in my speech, but I kind of got off of it, but I wanted to get there. And no, I know it's not Trump. I'll get back to him. I wanted to continue telling the story about Messi winning the World Cup. These guys, they are all athletically able to best him, yet when you watch the way that they challenge him, in the way that they move around him, and depending on where you are, it changes. Like if you're watching on a TV, you'll notice he's on camera more than anyone else. And when you're in the stadium, you might notice that your eyes are drawn to him more than anyone else. Maybe you're not watching a TV or watching the game in person, but you're out on the street chatting about it because it happens to be taking place currently, but you're not a soccer fan. Messi's the name you're going to hear more than any other name. And it's almost like a progression of a speech. When you hear there's a beginning and an end. And when you're in an audience and you watch someone give a speech, you are almost able to sort of predict the notes that they hit. It's like you can't say for sure what kind of words they're going to say or how they're going to say them or who's going to... It's more of like a... deeper connection to the event that's transpiring. In a speech, there's a start and an end and a person giving it. And all these factors that are roughly consistent throughout. And with Messi, I just felt like there was this force field or like this aura or like this like ability to be unrivaled. It was like through the respect for the game that we all have, whether admitted or not. Soccer, it's a beautiful, beautiful sport, and it is something that we've played, watched, encountered many a times throughout all of our lives. With these players on the field, they could say the exact same in even more of a sense. It's like there's this crossroad where the respect for the game almost becomes one with the respect for the player. And with Messi, what he's done for the world, time and time again, he showed up and bared what is only describable as immense pressure and expectation of what was, both equal parts amounted to by him and pushed upon to him. It's like in these brief little moments of thinking, you kind of, it's almost like those moments when you you've studied for the test and you almost can see the outcome, and it's like it's just a dance, and it's a beautiful language, and to be fluent in it is almost it's like we don't speak about how there is a time where you're not fluent, and I just feel like this translates to Donald Trump. And to be president, you are equal parts hated and loved. This is not something that is new to Trump. Disapproval and approval ratings always hover around 50%. All presidents. And that's a very proudly democratic thing. And it transcends the role of president to a famous figure, to someone that's well known. And I don't know. I just think from what I hear, he's always awake, always speaking, always taking time for everybody. I believe before he was president, he just made tons of calls, always calling people. And it's a beautiful language, and just as much as he put himself in that position, we put him in that position, and it's like a big handshake. So to observe it is to respect it, and to respect it is to observe it. So in the discussion of Donald Trump, it's like, well, do you love him or do you hate him? And I'm quick to say I don't know him. I respect him, and I respect, his role. I respect what I hear, and I observe. I respect what I observe, and I observe what I respect. Because it's all a lot more complex than we give it credit. And things are really not too far off from being a bunch of spilt water that is just traveling as it may, no container. I mean, it's all these reactions and interactions and occurrences are just wild in number. And for us to be traveling down what really does seem to be one coherent timeline is a weird way of perceiving it all. Because it seems linear. It seems like we're born and we die, and for whatever reason we're able to sort of experience this all in one line where everything can be taken back to this line, like I'm on a train track, and I can reverse and I can go forward, and I can take my train and put it off the train track, but the track always exists, and I'm always a train. And I don't know how that way of seeing things came to be, but we all seem to share it as people. We all seem to understand, and it creates for this totally strange assimilation of us all, where we have built these things. And when I am in a setting where Donald Trump's name seems taboo, or when I'm in a house in Georgia and they have a shrine for the guy, or when I'm on Instagram seeing like, oh, what an evil man, it really calls into perspective. It's just like that's how I feel I make progress towards some sort of answer. I feel that if I listen to the person that says that they hate as much as I listen to the person that says that they love, I just take the tiniest step forward to some sort of end goal. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This is our third and final ad read of the episode. If you would like to sponsor an episode of Keeping It Real, as of now, you could be the first ever sponsor for any episode of Keeping It Real. Get in contact with me. I'd love to work with you. For the last segment of this episode, we're going to do our best to get philosophical, give some advice. Griffin is most likely passed out. He's not in his Discord. He's not live. I know it was his birthday. I saw a picture of him on Snapchat doing what I believe would appear to be celebrating. I find correspondence, it's funny because I'll let off the gas a little bit, and not post as much, not work as hard for the sake of going to bed and just getting it out of the way, getting it done. I regress, I guess you could say. It feels like regressing. And then I go to check on Griffin, and he's not live. I feel like we're kind of on like similar wavelengths. It does happen to be both of our birthdays today. It's just for whatever reason, locking in and choosing to stick with something is a wild ride because nothing is promised. Whether it's not promised you're going to stick with it. It's not promised that sticking with it will bring success. There's no promises for the future. But like I was saying in the previous segment, there is language, and it's like almost like sometimes like we as people like feel these things through language, and we apply them and they work, and it's like we can transcend speaking with English and make everything an exchange of communication, like whatever has to do it's like manifestation. And it's funny how it's that's like a loopy kind of term. Like someone that talks about manifesting will also talk about horoscopes and spiritual and stuff, being spiritual and all. And I honestly, I say I don't identify with that sort of thing because I don't, it's like God or a higher power or like, things that I can't see or prove or are things that I cannot believe. And other people lay things out in ways that are so simple and step by step, so there's so much work shown in some things that it is within my belief that I could prove it, and therefore I believe it. And these are things like currently the Earth is orbiting around the sun. These are things like baked potato chips are bad for you. These are things like a dog and a human being have organs and such in common. And I don't subscribe to if you'll give me a bit of an intermission, a 2-minute break, I'm going to go get some water and come right back. Okay, I know this is the wrong part of the show for this sort of thing, but tonight, right now, I'm going to switch the topic up. We're going to go back to the first segment a little bit, and we're going to talk about this girl. Oh my God, that is the biggest roach that I've ever seen in my life. What the fuck? Anyway, so what I was saying was there's this well, let's start by saying this. There's no hole in my life, I feel. I feel that I am at a sort of crossroads, and I've been at this crossroads for a while. I'm moving forward in all ways, you know. It's not an overall crossroads, it's just in a certain area I'm at a crossroads. And I feel that I'm standing on the corner of a, single for the rest of my life, and having a partner. And I always feel so silly and stupid talking about this, but I can never figure out why I should feel that way. So until I am able to think to myself, oh, this is why I shouldn't talk about this, it's going to continue to slip its way into keeping it real episodes. Because I can't, that's what this is for. That's what it's for. Now, a while ago, I started to see a certain username pop up in my... Let's be real. Probably the first time it popped up, I clicked on it. And it brought me to this page of this girl. And I thought she was just very pretty. Now, I think girls are pretty all the time. But let's just cut to for whatever reason, I saw that she liked something I did recently, and she left a comment on it. And that just makes me want to send her a message. I've already messaged her a couple of times. She doesn't live where I live. And that's always been enough of a reason to forget about it. But then there's that other voice in my head where it's you got to give yourself a reason to forget about it. So then it's well, are you actively pushing it out of your way? Because why would you actively push it out of your way? Isn't this the thing that's happening that, you never expect to happen, but it just happens? Why are you refusing to let it happen? And I tell that voice to shut up, because I'm just doing my best. I go to bed and I wake up. What more do you want from me? Leave me alone. So yeah, I'm most likely going to continue to not send her a message, because I don't think that that's... I think that if honestly, I feel like if it's such a if it's such a thing to talk about like this, then that's kind of the reason that a reason to not involve her. You know, I can think it over and talk about it all I'd like, but to cross the bridge and say what's going on, kind of, it's almost kind of like applying to graduate and get your cap and gown a year in advance, or it's kind of like it's putting something before the something, whatever that saying is. And I know that you could make the argument where you say that reasoning is just some way of putting this off, and eventually, you're going to have to shake it to put it on, I guess. Whether it's with this girl or someone else. So why won't you just do what you did when you landed yourself in your last relationship and let the excitement and curiosity take over. And I think that I'm just not crossing any bridges here, because I don't know, in this analogy, I would come up with some reason not to cross a bridge. I don't know what I'd say. It's the truth of the situation is that it just crossed my mind one too many times, so I'm letting it cross, keeping it real. And I don't want to set the wrong precedents, and become the guy that's just forever doesn't do anything. But I think talking about it is enough, and I'm less worried about whatever I was worrying about before. So with that being said, my advice that I'm actually going to aim and direct at myself as an older man. Jack, if you're listening to this as an older gentleman, we are up here in numbers in episodes. It's 215. And realistically, I don't think you're going to stumble across this naturally, unless, of course, someone else finds it and sends it to you. And if someone else finds this audio clip and they cut it and they send it to you, and you're listening to me now, I really want to push you to take some sort of chance. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm trying to take less and less chances. So I can only imagine what kind of life you're living right now. I'm sure that it's one of routine, structure, and limits. Not in a negative connotation, just in a grown-up sort of way. I'm sure that many more people depend on you in much more impactful ways now than they do or than they did when you were my age. So I just want to be the voice of craziness, because you've probably developed a sort of skin to not let this crazy voice come from anywhere else except from maybe I'm able to break through and say, take a damn chance. You're never too old, and it's never too late to just do some shit that doesn't really make that much sense. With that being said, with the final minute of Keeping It Real, episode 215 transpiring, I want to do my best to leave us off on some sort of impactful or mind-shifting note. I would just say, appreciate and respect life, because we're all living it and we're all living it together, but everyone's also living their own life and no one's living yours. So if you don't respect and appreciate it, then nobody will. I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.